Welcome back to another episode of English Cooking, where I teach you English through cooking. Do you like learning English through cooking? I thought it would be a good way to teach you guys some English. So, welcome back. Now, today we're going to make one of my favorite foods, all-time favorite foods. I love this so much. It's called meatloaf. Have you ever had meatloaf? Let me know down there in the comments, guys, if you love meatloaf. I don't know if it's a North American food, but it's pretty common. You know, at least it used to be. I don't know. I haven't seen too many people eating meatloaf these days. I think it was maybe more common back in maybe like the 1960s or 1980s, but I still love it. I was born in the 1980s, in case you're wondering. I'm an old fart now. An old person? You can call an old person an old fart. Although that's a bit disrespectful. It's just a casual way to describe someone as an old fart. So you can call me an old fart because I was born back in the 1980s. All right, so the first thing you're going to need is a meatloaf pan. All right, so this kind of a pan is called a meatloaf pan. All right. So let's just preheat the oven. Just get that going. Because I don't think it's going to take us very long to actually make this. I think this is going to be one of my shorter English cooking videos, but we'll see. We'll see. Let me know down in the comments what you think of this series, this English cooking series. Hope you guys learned some new English. You know, the reason why I wanted to start this series is because there are so many words that you only can really learn within a certain context, right? Like, I mean, so far I've made, I think, about 10 videos in this series, and I always think of new words that I've never taught you in all 4 years of the existence of Mad English TV, right? Because if I'm just holding my GoPro, walking outside, I'm just thinking about words that I'm seeing, right? Talking about the clouds or the buildings or something like that. Well, with food, you know, it just opens up the door to a whole new world, the world of food and cooking. So guys, today we're gonna make meatloaf. Now, what is meatloaf? Well, it's like a dinner food or like a supper food, right? So it's a main meal. It's not a breakfast food. Most people, I don't think, would eat it for breakfast. But I don't know. It's just a nice meal. Right? You could eat it by itself, or you can eat it with some vegetables or some, you know, mashed potatoes or something. Yeah, I think in my next episode, I'm going to teach you guys how to make mashed potatoes. So stick around for that. But so what you need for this is just need some ground beef. So I've got 2 packs of ground beef here. Let's just put them in one at a time. Now we're just going to mix the ingredients in a bowl before we put it into the pan, all right? So how do we open this? There we go. See, there's this little tab here. See on the corner of that, it says peel open here. Peel open. You can call this a tab, okay? So you're just going to grab that tab and just peel it open, right? You know, just like if you're browsing the internet, you know, on your internet browser, you can open a new tab, right? You can have a whole bunch of tabs. How many tabs do you have open every day? You know, for me, sometimes it gets kind of ridiculous. I'll have maybe like 20 tabs open or 30 tabs open. You know, maybe a YouTube video is playing, maybe some music is playing in one tab, and then I try to figure out which tab is, like if someone calls me and I have to quickly turn off my music or something, sometimes I have to figure out which of those tabs is playing the music, and then I have to close it. Let me know, do you have that problem? I have that problem sometimes. Okay, so we're gonna just put in the ground beef. Now guys, I've never made this recipe before. I'm just making this up on the spot, right? If you make something up on the spot, it just means you just figure it out right now. I've never made this before. I don't even know how to make meatloaf. This is the first time in my life I'm making meatloaf. Have you ever made meatloaf before? So sometimes, if you want to do something for the first time, you don't have to go online and look up recipes. You can just kind of do it yourself. So this is a do-it-yourself project. So I'm making this recipe up on the spot. And another phrase we use for that, or another word we use for that, is to wing it. To wing something. If you wing something, that means you don't plan for it. You just do it, right? So for example, if you're studying, well, let's say you're studying for an exam. Okay, and you're studying and you call your friend and say, hey, have you studied for your exam? Have you studied for the exam? Your friend might say, nah, I'm just going to wing it. I'm just going to wing it. That means your friend is not going to study. Your friend is just going to go show up to the exam, take the exam, and that's it. Completely unprepared, right? Well, that's what I'm doing here. I have not prepared this. I don't know if it's going to turn out. Now, after my last video, I used the phrase turn out. Okay, and someone emailed me and they said, hey, Mark, can you use the phrase, the phrasal verb turn out without another word after it? Like, usually we would say, maybe use another word after it, like to turn out well, right? You could say, I hope this recipe turns out well, or it turned out poorly. Yeah, my recipe, hey, Grandma, I tried to follow your recipe, but I made some mistakes and it turned out poorly, right? So the person was asking me, do we need an adverb there after turn out? Turn out well, turn out poorly, that kind of thing. From my perspective, I don't think we need to. I think the word turn out means that it turned out well. That's how I've heard it used. I use it that way. You'll hear it in my videos. I use it that way. So the person said, this person who emailed me said that he asked a British person and an American person, and they both agreed that I was wrong. So if an American English and a British English agree that I'm wrong, maybe I am wrong. But the thing, maybe Canadian English is a bit weird. I don't know. But from my perspective, now I haven't researched this. I don't know. But if something turns out, where did we get that? Why turn out? Where did we get that phrasal verb from? Well, I think it's probably from baking. Like if you work at a bakery, and let's say you're making bread, and back in the day, they would make bread and then they just, maybe still, I've never worked in a bakery, right? But you'd bake your bread, you'd put the dough, in the pan, and then you'd put it in the oven. And then after it's finished baking, you just flip the pan over and the bread falls out, right? You turn it out. You turn the bread out of the pan, right? If it turns out, that means the dough was the proper consistency. That means it was a success, right? But if the bread doesn't fall out of the pan, that means it's stuck on the pan, right? So that means it didn't turn out. Hey, it's not turning out, right? I think maybe that's where the idiom or the phrasal verb comes from, to turn out. And so if the bread falls out, that means it was successful, right? So that's the way I would think about it. If something turns out, my oven just finished preheating. So if something turns out, that from my perspective, it means it's successful. So that was a good question. It made me think when the guy emailed, when the person emailed me, right? I was thinking, am I using that wrong? And I thought about it for a while, and I thought, you know what? I don't think I'm using it wrong. I think I'm right. But if you think I'm wrong, let me know down in the comments. So maybe it sounds a little bit strange for some people if it just turns out. If I say, hey, I hope this recipe turns out. What I'm saying is I hope it's successful. That's what that means. It smells like something's burning, guys. I hope my house isn't burning down. Anyway, that was my long-winded explanation I just thought about that email the other day when I used the word, the term turn out. I thought I should explain that a little bit because I could be wrong. Like I said, very often native English speakers make mistakes, and it might not be a mistake. It might just be a regional difference, right? So Canadian English might be a bit different, and even within Canada, right? Like in my last episode, I think, I said that people in Saskatchewan pronounce milk, malk. A lot of people do, not everybody. But people do that, right? So there's, English is not like kind of a black and white thing. It's kind of a living organism, right? It's kind of moving and it's transforming all the time. New words come up all the time, and I don't even know the words young kids are talking about. All these young whippersnappers using their modern slang words. If a kid is a whippersnapper, it's just another way to say a kid, a whippersnapper. Okay, so you can describe kids as whippersnappers, a young whippersnapper. All right, so we've got 1 pack of ground beef. Man, done so much talking already, and we only have 1 in there. So grab the tab. I'm looking for the tab here. I'm just gonna pull the tab and open up this. Smells good. All right. So we got our ground beef. Now, see, I'm just eyeballing it, right? I've never made this before. I'm not following a recipe. It's just from my head, right? So I'm looking at this pan, and I'm thinking, how much stuff do I need to put in here to fill this pan? So I'm eyeballing it. To eyeball something means you judge something based on your eyes, right? So, I'm looking at this pan. It's about this big. It's about yay big, right? It's about yay big. Remember, I taught you guys the word yay maybe last year, as a term of measurement. If something is yay high or yay wide, or it's about yay big, it's just a term of measurement. It means this. It means this. It's about this tall. It's about this wide. About this big. Right? About yay. This is a weird one, but anyway. So put your ground beef into the bowl, right? Into your nice mixing bowl. I got a nice glass bowl here. Now let's add a couple eggs. We're gonna put 2 eggs in here, and guys, I got some shell in my recipe. This recipe does not call for any shell, right? If a recipe calls for something, that means it's part of the recipe. You need to put it in there. So, I could say this recipe calls for 2 eggs. If this is my recipe, say, yeah, this recipe calls for. It's kind of a weird way to say it, because to call, hey, I called my grandma, or hey, come over here, I'm calling you, right? So sometimes the words can mean different things. Like this recipe calls. How is a recipe calling? Because the recipe's not a living thing. The recipe's not a person, right? But in this case, the recipe is calling for eggs, or calling for whatever else I'm going to put in here, right? So let's just set this aside for a sec. The word sec means second. It's short for second. Let's just put that aside for a sec. And what else should we put in here? Let's put an onion. Okay, now this kind of an onion is called a red onion. Okay, there are different kinds of onions, yellow onions, sweet onions. But this kind of onion is called a red onion. Even though it's not really red, it's purple. It looks kind of red up top here, but when we cut into it, you'll see it doesn't look red at all. It looks purple. Here, I'll just cut off the ends here. Look at that. Onions have different layers, right? We're gonna take off the outer layer. So look at that. It's purple. That's not really red, right? That's purple. So let's peel off the outer layer. Whoops. Got my garbage can right here and kind of missed the garbage can. All right, so there's our purple onion, but it's called a red onion. Now this kind of a knife is called a cleaver. A cleaver. I'm not really used to cooking with a cleaver, but I think my other knife is in the sink. That's why I decided to use a cleaver, all right? So we're gonna finely chop our onion using a cleaver, all right? So, okay, so now we're gonna get some very, very fine slices there. Look at that. That is very nicely, very finely chopped. Wow. Do you like finely chopped onions? Okay, so there it is, guys. Look at those very, very small pieces, right? That's like a finely chopped onion. Not that piece, that's not finely chopped. Chop that up a bit more. Okay, let's add this in there. Perfect, now we'll chop up the other half. Chop up, all right? Very often with phrasal verbs, we can make a, oh guys, my eyes are starting to cry. It's burning my eyes. Have you ever chopped onions before? Oh no, I'm gonna cry on my video. You guys, it's stinging my eyes. Oh, this is gonna be rough. This is gonna be so rough. Wish me the best, guys. I deserve a like for crying in my video. But what was I gonna say? Oh yeah, about phrasal verbs, guys. Very often a normal verb can be turned into a phrasal verb if it's stinging my eyes so much. A normal verb can be turned into a phrasal verb by adding the word up. Okay, so I just said let's chop up. Oh, this is so bad. I grab a towel. Guys, my eyes are burning. Very often when we make phrasal verbs, it just makes the verb a little bit more casual, right? A little bit less formal, right? So you can chop something, but if you chop something up, I could either say I'm chopping this onion, or I'm chopping up this onion. The meaning is the same, right? It's the same meaning. It's just a little bit more informal to say chop up. Very often phrasal verbs are more informal than other verbs. Guys, I'm struggling. My eyesight is a little bit impaired now that I'm crying so much because of the onions. Is your eyesight impaired, or can you see clearly? Do you have 20/20 vision? If you have 20/20 vision, that means your vision is perfect. For me, I don't have 20/20 vision. I don't know. I haven't had my eyes tested or checked for probably 20 years, I think. So I'm not sure. I'm not sure what my vision is, but I can see you. Actually, that's a lie. I can't see you, but I can see my camera lens. I'm looking right into my camera lens. Are you hiding in my camera? So, we're just gonna finally chop this half of the onion. And then we're just gonna mash everything together with our hands, okay? So, actually, before we mash everything together, let's add a squirt of ketchup. Ketchup, right? We're just gonna add a good squirt of ketchup. Let's add some, guys, let's add a dollop of relish. Come on. Okay, so we got some relish here. Relish is just kind of it's a condiment that people put on like hot dogs. You can see the picture of the hot dog there on the jar. Hot dogs or hamburgers, or relish kind of goes good with especially beef, any kind of a meat dish like that. So we're gonna add a dollop. Now, do you remember what the word dollop means from one of my other English cooking videos? A dollop just means like a spoonful of something, right? So that's a dollop. There's my dollop of relish, right? So let's add a pinch of salt, guys. All right, it's just you gotta pinch it. All right, if you're adding a pinch of something, you have to pinch it. Actually, you don't have to pinch it, but it's just that's why we call it a pinch, because it's you know, if you pinch someone, it means you use your two fingers, you pinch someone's cheek or something like that, right? So guys, that's it for this my on the spot recipe. So I just made up this recipe on the spot. Should we add anything else? Let me just think. What else could we add? Well, I think that's about it. Yeah, I think that's good. So now let's just mash it together with our hands, right? To mash something together means if you're using your hands, you just get in there and just mash it all together. Look at that, guys. I'm just mashing it together. Like I said, you know, with phrasal verbs, very often it's kind of a bit flexible which preposition you use, like to mash up, to mash together. I could say I'm just mashing up this. I'm mashing up, I'm mashing together this, or I could just say I'm mashing it. So very often this is kind of flexible. English is kind of flexible, right? So I'm just gonna mash it together nice and evenly. Get all the onion kind of all in there. Okay, guys, what do you think? Do you think this recipe is gonna turn out wonderfully? There, I used an adverb to make those other native English speakers happy. The American and the British, who think I need to use an adverb. Okay, so that's about mashed up enough, I would say. Now this is looking like it might even be a bit too much for that pan. I'm just eyeballing it, right? We'll see. Let's see. So let's just grab our pan here, and let's just move it into the pan, right? Oh, that's maybe a perfect fit, guys. Wow, look, that was awesome. I eyeballed that really well. That is a perfect fit for this pan. I wonder if I forgot anything. You know, the nice thing about cooking is a very forgiving hobby. You know, if something is forgiving, that means there's nothing really that can go wrong. I mean, like look at this. So worst case scenario, let's think worst case scenario right now. What could happen? Well, I could leave it in my oven and forget about it. It could burn down my house. Yeah, that's that might be the worst case scenario. But if we just think specifically about this recipe, what is the worst case scenario? Worst case scenario, I mean, maybe I didn't make it right. But what could go wrong? It's ground beef, it's onions. Oh, I should have put some garlic in here. I don't know, where's my garlic? Anyway, it's too late now. My hands are all caked in ground beef. If your hands are caked in something, that means it's like look at that. If something is caked, it means it's kind of stuck together. So, you know, it's yeah. I'm trying to think of another example. Caked. It's caked on. When would we use that? It's really caked on here. Imagine if I bake this meatloaf, right? I'm gonna throw it in the oven and then maybe wait an hour, right? And or however long. I'll keep checking it to see if it's done. And then let's say I try to take it out of the pan. And if it doesn't come out of the pan and I have to kind of like, you know, force it out, then probably a lot of the the meatloaf will be stuck to the pan, right? Then I could say there, you know, it's caked on. This meatloaf is really caked on. I can't get it out like when I go to wash my pan. You know, if it's stuck on there, I could say it's really caked on here. Caked on. So that's another, you know, that's another phrasal verb that I just, you know, just kind of thought of on the fly. So guys, I think that's it. Let's pop this in the oven. I'm just gonna rinse off my hands here. I don't want to get ground beef all over my oven handle when I open the oven. All right, so we're just gonna pop this in there. All right, now like I said, I'm just making this up on the spot, so I don't know how long to bake it for. I'll probably just keep checking it after a while. Now I'm gonna stop the video because I want to see how it turned out. Right? I want to see if, you know, if it turns out. I don't know how it's gonna. Like I said, this is my very first time in my life making meatloaf, so I don't know how it's gonna work, how it's gonna turn out. I'm gonna do some exercising here, or I'm gonna do something else and just keep checking it. So I'll pause the video, and I'll see you guys back here in a while, and we will see how it turned out. Ooh, take a look at that, guys. It is done. Our meatloaf. Smash like if you would love to have a slice of meatloaf. So, man, look at that. Oh, it's a bit hot. So how can I show it to you guys here? Can you see it? So there it is. I'll give you a better look. It smells good. Oh, let's call it a success for my very first meatloaf. So guys, that was my off-the-cuff meatloaf. Or what did I say? I made it up on the spot. Right? Another idiom you can use is off the cuff. All right, if you just kind of do something without planning it, you know, part of your shirt is called the cuff, right? If you do something off the cuff. This is just my off the cuff meatloaf. I wasn't even planning to make a meatloaf today. I just looked in my fridge. I said, what do I have? I've got some ground beef, got some onions. Let's throw together a meatloaf. So here's our thrown together meatloaf. So if you throw something together, that means you just kind of you do it in an unprepared way, or kind of an unofficial, maybe a way. You just kind of throw it together. So like I said, this is not it's not really an official recipe. I didn't follow a recipe. I just kind of threw together some stuff. All right. So I looked in my fridge. I thought, I want to make a cooking video. What can I do? I thought, well, you know, meatloaf is a pretty common North American food. Maybe you've never had meatloaf. So that's why I wanted to, you know, teach you guys. Part of this show is about, you know, making food that is maybe interesting to me or interesting to North American culture. You know, like what have we made so far? We made can't even remember what we've made. We make some cookies. We made some cookies, but I think we've made some typical foods. Bacon and eggs. Right? Bacon and eggs is a really common North American breakfast. So we're gonna make some common foods. Like I said, maybe in the next episode we might make some mashed potatoes. So that's one of the most common North American foods. So meatloaf, guys. Meatloaf is so good. It's so delicious. So let's cut a slice. I hope it's done in the middle. Let's see, is it done in the middle? I don't know. I just popped it in the oven for about an hour, I would say, or maybe like 40 minutes or something like that. So let's just cut a slice here, and we'll see what it looks like. I think it's done. So let's take it out of our meatloaf pan. Oh no, guys, this is really juicy. This is really soggy. So if something is, that's a good word. If something is soggy, now I don't think meatloaf is supposed to be so soggy. There's a lot of liquid in there. So if something is soggy, that means there's too much moisture. Something has too much moisture that's not supposed to have moisture. Like for example, hey, if you eat cereal for breakfast, let's say any kind of breakfast cereal like Fruit Loops or shredded wheat or one of those kinds of cereals. You put the cereal in the bowl, you add milk, and then you eat it right away, right? And it's kind of crunchy. The cereal's like crunchy. But if you leave the cereal in the bowl for like an hour, if you forget about something, you go and or you get ready for work, or you go check your emails or something, and then you come back to your bowl of cereal, probably the cereal will be really soggy. And most people don't like really soggy cereal. They like the crunchiness of their cereal, right? So this is a bit soggy. I don't know if you can, it's kind of hot, but you can see all that liquid, right? Wow, that's a lot of liquid. Where did that liquid come from? Did it come from the beef? Yeah, I mean, this was lean ground beef. If ground beef doesn't have very much fat, it's called lean. So, when you go buy ground beef from a store, it will either say regular or lean or maybe extra lean, right? So extra lean means no fat, almost no fat. Lean means pretty much no fat, right? But regular has more fat. So guys, there's our meatloaf. Wow. I'm liking that. It smells pretty good. It's yeah, it looks pretty good. Let's add some ketchup and then we'll do a taste test, okay? All right. Now, I don't have a fork. Oh, I see a fork. Ha! My golden fork. All right, so let's, kind of looks a bit dusty, guys. One of the downsides of having your cutlery in like a bin or container that's just out in the open is if you don't use a fork for a while, it can get a bit dusty. That's why it's nice having your cutlery in a drawer, right? Most people have their cutlery in a drawer, but just to make my life a bit easier, after I wash my cutlery, it's just easier to put it in there, right? So I'm just gonna rinse it off. All right, look at that. My rinsed off golden fork. Man, that's awesome. So guys, here, I wanna give you the first bite of forgot what it's called, meatloaf. First bite of meatloaf right there. What do you think? Is it good? That's good. That's good. Man. That's good, guys. I'm just drying my hands off on my apron. This is called an apron, guys. Right? It says English Cooking, which is the name of this cooking show. Hope you're learning some English. So this is an apron. This is what's it called? A chef's hat? A chef hat, something like that. So I'm your chef. So guys, that's good. My theory turned out right. What's the worst case scenario? Well, the worst case scenario was I threw together some delicious ingredients: ground beef, onions, relish, ketchup, a bit of salt, and what else did we put in there? Eggs. And that's it. I just threw together some delicious ingredients. Turned out fabulously. Fabulous, right? The word fabulous means amazing. That is really good. I'm very happy about that, guys. This is going to be a great supper for me here. I want to give you guys one more bite. There it is. Man, that's good. Wow. Well, thank you guys so much for joining me in this video. And like I said, meatloaf is a really common food here. It's just so good. It's almost like it's kind of like a hamburger, except it just kind of, you can eat it on its own. Now, you could put something like this in a bun, I guess, but most people, they would just eat meatloaf just like that. Now, like I said, they might have some mashed potatoes, which we'll make in the next episode, or they might have some like steamed vegetables, boiled vegetables, or maybe a fresh salad or a soup, or you could put it with whatever you want, but you can just eat it plain, just like I'm doing. Guys, I'm out of breath. I just did 300 push-ups. I should have taken a little break before making this video. Now I'm out of breath. How many push-ups can you do? I didn't do 300 all at once. I did 70, and then 50, and then 30, and then 20, and I just kept going down. And then I did sets of 20, I think, till I got to 300. So guys, now I can get some protein to build my muscles a little bit. So thank you guys so much for joining me. I really appreciate your support. Hope you're having a wonderful day wherever you are. I love you guys so much. And stay safe, stay healthy, stay happy. And as always, I'll see you over in the next episode of Mad English TV. Take care.